ISO 2015 changes, and we're just going to be having a quick look at the key ones that we've identified here within the CASA team. So firstly, yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for taking some time out of your busy schedules today to chat with us about this new 9001 standard, which has been released this month. That's October 2015. Just on this point quickly, we will take some Q&As right at the end. And for those of you who are logging in online, we're also offering a free service for 25 minutes consultancy. We'll have that information come up on the screen at the end or on the web page that you've been taken to. So just check out down below for the link where you'll be able to access a free consultation session. So yeah, this webinar has been put together as a way for small and medium-sized business owners and operators to make sense of the changes to the ISO 9001 quality management system standard. I'm here to find practical applications for business using the ISO 9001 system as a framework, because the reason we got into business is to make money. So if you're making some money, if you're spending some money on an investment, you want to have the best possible return on investment, don't you? I believe business is more than making money. It's a place for us to push ourselves and be a better person. It's a place you can show your skills in a field or build yourself or something that you're proud of. So why the ISO standards? Like many of you, I've been fortunate enough to have some really awesome people in my life who have guided me toward my visualization of what success looks like. In business, I want to further my success by having a framework of reference that I can come back to help business, to keep my business and keep it on track. Also, certification is expensive to obtain and maintain. However, looking at the principles of ISO and truly applying it to your business will place your business well ahead of others in your field. It also places business on an even playing field with regards to large business and the small to medium, by giving each of the standards that quality level that we can expect across the board. Yeah, I heard at a conference a little while ago, a business conference, and it said the right strategy will save years off your business. That's both in growth, financial return, and recession proofing. So let's take some time now to review what the experts in the field have said, either to the need to have a quality product in your business. All right, I'm just trying this out with Google, so let's see how we go, guys. All right, let's hope it's working here. All right. So yeah, who's this webinar for? So if you're curious as a leader in your business, you could be researching to take material back to your boss on how ISO will help your business. It's for like-minded business owners or CEOs who are wanting to expand your business and use fundamentals developed from years of research into why businesses failed, and don't the 96% of failures in business, which do happen usually around a 10-year period. There's been increasing pressure from clients to hold ISO certification or produce documents. So any money you do spend will give you a good return on your investment. And who is this webinar not for? Businesses that are just wanting consultants to come into their business, give them the documents to pass certification so that they can advertise that they are ISO compliant. This is not going to give you that foundation here. This is about looking at what the key fundamentals that we've identified and using strategies so that you can achieve those results. So the first objective we're going to be looking about is to think about the concepts and the principles the new standards are saying, which will help grow your business. We're going to think about practical ways that you can use the information discussed here to grow your business. And at the end, we're wanting you obviously to engage with our services or some other services to get yourself certified to ISO or upgrade to the new 2015 standard. And of course, we're wanting you to get involved with our ISO compliance solution, which we'll have a little bit about at the end of this webinar. So we're going to have a quick date back here, guys, to the history of where the standards have come from. And it initially started back in 1979 with the BS 5750, which was the British Standards Institute, which was developed due to explosions going off in bombing manufacturing factories. And it was used as a tool to show these factories demonstrating compliance and basically trying to minimize these explosions that were going off. It wasn't until 1981 where ISO Works began developing the 9001 standard, which is what we're common to hear now. It was 1987 that we saw the first ISO 9001 quality assurance standard, which primarily addressed design, development, production, installation, and servicing. It was primarily focused on the end product. Now, I'm not going to jump into too many of the additional standard requirements here in between, but we're going to jump straight over to the 2008, which was used as the first standard which set out the quality management system. This standard works with the ISO 9000 family, comprising of the 9000 and 2005, covering the basic concepts of terminology. 9004, 2009, making the quality management system a success, and the 19011 internal and external audits. All right, and then we're going to be jumping across here to the new 2014 update, which is what this presentation is about. And we're going to be talking here further and a lot more around this new concept of the Annex SL and some of the other key changes, which is the risk-based approach and the processes approach. We'll also be looking at touch on a little bit about the documentation flexibility. And the other big key change here is the improved focus on the customer. All right. So the Annex SL brings the structure of the standard into one format. In other words, if you're using multiple systems such as the ISO 14001 environmental, the structure is now consistent. No need to have the same thing twice. Sorry, guys. No need to have the same thing twice. So what this is the Annex SL is now a format that the ISO standard is rolling out. The ISO is rolling out across other of the ISO standards that are coming out. So and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's now a framework that all the standards will follow. We're going to be looking at this risk-based approach. Now, this is something that we do every day, guys. It's not out of the ordinary, but yet for some reason we hear coming back people talking about this concept of risk-based thinking, and it's going to take a lot out of your business. It's not different to what you do every day. You know, my question to a lot of people is, how surprised do you want to be in your business? So in that, it's by going through and looking at how much or what the potential risks are, the environmental impacts of those, and I'm not talking about from an environmental standard perspective, I'm talking about environmental contributors, people's experience and knowledge, training, all of these impact how you're going to manage risk. And that's risk within your business. That's not just risk on safety. I know there's a big push on that. But there's also your financials, your marketing, brand integrity. There's all of these other areas that we need to look at in the business so that you are clear on what you can do to prevent or minimize the impact. And there's this new concept that's come in here that's where they've removed preventive actions from the terminology, and they're now talking about having opportunities. So by going through and identifying all the risks, you then create opportunities where you could create another brand, you could create opportunities within industry, and that's where you're going to start to see these things as we're coming through. And we're going to talk about the process approach, which of course was in the standard, but this is stepped up to that next level. And as I mentioned before, the documentation flexibility and improved focus on customer. All right, so let's have a quick reflection here of the previous ISO 2008 structure. You'll see here where it was broken into the scope, which was in the section 1, the normative references, which was in section 2, section 3, terms and definitions. For many businesses, they're more familiar with here the section 4 through to section 8, which is the quality management system, the management responsibility, the resource management, the service and product realization, measurement analysis and improvement. Those were the sections that, if you are certified to 9001, 2008, those are the areas that the certifying bodies come in and they're assessing you against as they, when they're within there. That's what your framework's about, your policies, your procedures, or your forms, your evidence to support that and so forth. That's where all of that fits into that section 4 to section 8. The new Annex SL, which is the format for the future of the ISO standards. So this is giving a very structured 10-step clauses that each of your standard systems, the ISO standards, will be written into. You know, so if you have got multiple systems, they will be all in the same structure. That's the plan. It's going to be reducing time and money for your businesses, especially if you are running multiple systems. You can have the same set of element for the same standard across the board. You're going to be able to integrate your business operations a lot better. You'll be minimizing the confusion, and you're going to be eliminating the redundancy of some of the documents, the additional paperwork, the additional paper that it's all written onto, where you're having to have the same thing written 2 or 3 times, but having different clause numbers that you're addressing. So here's the new one as it's planned out under the Annex SL. And now it has already taken effect in other standards, such as the ISO 2231, which is the business continuity standard, and also the 27001, the information technology standard. This structure, you'll see, has a common set of 10 clauses over here on the in the planning section, as we know it with quality. It has a 10 clauses with the standard which must contain. Now, I'm just going to have a quick note here. We will chat about the Australian and the international safety standard a little bit later. So we've got plan, do, check, and act. Broken that down for you in the 10 clauses. Now, note that not too different from the previous standard, and the new environmental standard has the Annex SL added to it and is structured in this fashion. So let's have a quick chat about each of the clauses. So clause 1, which is the scope, and it sets out the intended outcomes for the management system. Clause 2 provides details of the reference standards or publications relevant to the particular standard. Clause 3 details terms and definitions applicable to the specific standard, in addition to any formal related terms and definitions. Clause 4 determines why the organization is here. Quickly over to 5 here, the new structure, high-level structure places particular emphasis on leadership, not just management as set out in the previous standard. This means top management now has a greater accountability and involvement in the organization's management system. Clause 6 here, which is planning. Once your business has highlighted risks and opportunities identified in clause 4, it needs to address how these will be managed through planning. The planning phase looks at what, who, how, and when these risks must be addressed. Ooh, lost my cursor. There we go. 7. After addressing the context, commitment, and planning, organizations will have to have a look at the support needed to meet their goals and objectives, such as resources, targeted internal and external communications, as well as documented information that replaces previously used terms such as documents, documentation, and records. Jumping down here to clause 8, addresses both in-house and outsourced processes, while the overall process management includes adequate criteria to control these processes, as well as ways to manage, plan, and intend change. Down here on 9, here the organisation needs to determine what, how, when, and when things will be monitored, measured, analysed, and evaluated. This includes internal audits and management reviews. And 10 looks at ways to address non-conformities, corrective actions, as well as strategies to improve on a continual basis. So I thought I'd make it, or help to make it a little bit easier for you to follow, because a lot of us, a lot of consultants love to have flowcharts. So let's have a quick look here through this flowchart. We've got the context of the organisation that's going to be feeding into here of what the customer and the other relevant parties are going to be wanting. They're going to be feeding into our leadership direction, and they're going to give our input for our operations. I'm going to feed that around here to performance, leadership, and planning. We're going to be giving it some support. We're always going to be overlooking all of the things that we're doing through continual improvement. We want to optimize and improve. Then we're going to feed over here. We're going to be making sure that our customers are happy. So yeah, this is the visual representation of how the clauses will work within your business. All right. So with the Annex SL, this is going to be looking at reducing the costs associated with running multiple systems. It's going to be reducing the time learning. Okay, so just jumping over here. So I mentioned shortly, just before the about the Australian and the international standard on the ISO 4801, which is the Australian and international safety standard, and the current there is a current discussion on the whether or not there'll be a new development of an ISO 45001, which has been developed or is in discussion of being developed to replace the 18001 ISO safety standard. Neither of these at this point have looked at this Annex SL or have no plans of aligning them. So the current 4801, there's no current alignment plan that is in discussion that we've heard about, but as soon as we hear anything, we'll definitely be letting you guys know on that. So let's quickly move over to risk-based thinking. So the ISO 2015 defines risk as the effect of uncertainty on an unexpected result. An effect is a deviation from the expected, either positive or negative. Risk is about what could happen and what the effect of this happening might be. Risk also considers how likely it is. The new update in 2015 uses the risk-based thinking to achieve this through in clause 6, excuse me. Sorry about that. In clause 6, the context of the organisation is required to determine the risks which may affect this. In clause 5, in leadership, top management are required to commit to ensuring clause 4 is followed. Clause 6, planning. The organisation is required to take action to identify risks and opportunities. Clause 8, operation. The organisation is required to implement process to address risks and opportunities. Here in Clause 9, performance evaluation. The organisation is required to monitor, measure, analyse and evaluate the risks and opportunities. And Clause 10, the organisation is required to improve by responding to changes in risk. So how do we do it? We need to identify what your risks and opportunities are. We need to analyse and prioritise your risks and opportunities. Yeah, this needs So how are we going to do this? Identify what your risks and opportunities are. Firstly, the standard hasn't stipulated using any formalized risk formula. So that's So how do we identify risks within your business? You know, firstly, within the 2015 standard, it has mentioned that it hasn't stipulated that there is no formalized risk-based formula that needs to be used to identify the risks in your business. Later in this presentation, we will have a quick look of a formula that we currently use, and that may be beneficial for your business. Each business is different in how you can address it and how you want to document it. We need to analyze, prioritize your risks and opportunities. Now, these are questions to ask your company. What risks are tolerable and what isn't? What advantages do either of these processes possess? We need to develop an action plan to address the risks. We need to take action, implement your plan. Then we need to review your effectiveness of your actions. Then we need to learn for the future. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. It's about continual improvement. I believe that this sums it up. So let's have a quick look at a risk register. We would be using here at within CASA to begin with. It was originally created for safety, but expanded into covering most areas of business some time ago, as there was identified that there was more risks identified throughout the business. So here's a simple spreadsheet that we generally use. In here, you'll see where we've got the categories. So we've broken some of the categories down that you can be looking at. And one of your actions that you'll be looking at is how you're doing your tendering process. We'll be looking over here, the associated hazards. What could happen? What's your associated hazards? What's the cause of the hazards and possible outcomes? So that's your initial identification or your risk rating. And then what we're going to do, we can bring into here anything that's got on the controlling legislation. This is very vital because that's part of the ISO 9001 as well as within safety. You know, bringing into account what standards, what legislation, what acts, what regulations, if you're in Australia, that affect what you're doing. So we need to document. It's good to document it somewhere, and then you can take that into consideration as you're going through. Just mentioned here's the codes or standards. You know, policies for control that are going to help control. And then what we're going to do is safeguards, and then we're going to have a residual risk rating. Now, this is across multiple different areas of the business. So it's not, like I mentioned earlier before, it's not just, this isn't about a safety risk-based thinking anymore. This is about looking at your business as a whole, marketing, HR, of course, looking at safety, looking at your brand, look at your IT options. These are all risks that are associated within business today, and how you're going to see what the potential hazard is, how you're going to control it, if there's any influencing bodies, and how you're going to manage that, and what policies, procedures, and so forth you're going to implement, and then what do you think the residual risk rating. And like with other documents within the 9000 family, this has to be reviewed on a fairly regular basis, at least once a year, if not regularly, or if there's been some sort of event that's happened. So I hope this is helpful into how you want to look, helpful with dealing with this new risk-based thinking. It's not a big thing. It comes down to consultation, working with the relevant team members, bringing in external help. Again, when you're looking at external audits, this is a great opportunity to learn, to see what you're missing, seeing what other industries are doing, seeing if you can apply those theories into your business or practices, into how you can improve your process, because it's about continual improvement. You know, there's never failure. It's always about continual improvement. I've always viewed that failure is the only time you fail is when you fail to learn. So we're going to have a quick look here at this process approach. One of the things with So the process approach, this is not dissimilar to the 2008. It's getting into a little bit more in depth in the 2015 standard. We're looking at here how does the process, either pre or post the actual process you're looking at, how does that affect the next action? So every action essentially creates a new action within your business. So a good way is to always map out the process that the particular processes in your business. We want to carry out the process. We're going to check and monitor once we've implemented the process. We're going to implement the improvements. When you're able to map this process out, you can actually visually see where how each of the actions affect the next action. You can group or cluster particular items that need to be happening within each part of that process, and then you can check, either check through your auditing process that's relevant for each of the sections, whether or not you're addressing all of the key elements that need to be addressed within that section, and then how that's going to implement onto the next line within the process. So let's have another look at this in a map. So I'm going to use the example here of a sales process. So we can break it down into leads. Those are leads that are either coming into your business through phone calls. They could be coming in through your website, through forms online, referrals. Now they're coming in, And your next step in the process line is to make contact with them. Once you've made contact with them, you're obviously either going to present a deal or an offer or attempt to sell a product. Now, this could be at any level. This could be essentially McDonald's, if you want to break it down. They not much selling goes on within there, but they are selling a deal. That's why they ask at the end, would you like fries with that? They're creating an upsell. So they've presented their a deal, and they're trying to offer you an incentive to go up by 50 cents more, and you've got a larger meal, or would you like fries, and so forth. But they are presenting a deal. We want to close the deal. That's the process. And then we want to upsell. So let's have a look how we can use this in a practical application within your business. So as I mentioned there with leads, we're going to be looking at leads either coming in on offline or offline advertising, websites, referrals, phones, whether or not you've got advertising through banner ads and so forth. You want to be tracking all of this information to see what's going to be what's your best performer in your business. You can also use this when you've got sales people that are coming in. So with the information that's coming in, you can see which best line of information that's coming in can be is giving you the most best or return on investment. That leads us on to contact. So when we've got contact, if you've got a team of, let's say, 3 salespeople on your team, and you've got a process here where you have identified that you've got three key salespeople, but one particular salesperson triple the amount closes compared to the other 2 people selling within your business. Now, as part of your review process of what's going on there, you can ask and find out why that person is able to sell a product 3 times more than what your other 2 salesmen are doing. You can use that by then identifying what are the key strategies that person's using, and then develop that into your process. There's something that they're doing that I'm sure if the other 2 people started using, they can use the same sort of strategies to increase their sales amount. Same with presenting the deal. If someone else who presents the deal is doing something better, there's a strategy that you could use, or a formula if they're presenting it in different formats. Obviously, with having a quality standard, we're going to have a consistent format, but there may be something that someone's doing within that area that's closing the sale a little bit more. Then you want to use that same formula across your business at that stage of the process. Then we can look at, we're going to close the sale. So we're starting to measure how often it's closing the sale. And then we can look at upsells. So upsells can be through your referral program. And again, you may have particular people in your business who are peak performing in this area. Now, if you've broken it down into your process, you can, go back and look at the formula that person's using, or how they're approaching it, or there may be something that they're doing that you can use to improve your sales process at that stage of your process, at that stage of selling the item, whether or not that, like I said, it's the upsell stage, that use that formula that person's doing to really get in and upsell your items. So I hope that helps you to understand like a little bit about this process approach that they're talking about now within the standard. I went into it a little bit more in depth there, not so much on the standard side, but on the how we can actually use that process in a simplified 5 steps there to improve your sales process, or start addressing it. We can use the audit. Then we bring this information back into the business that you're doing, and you start to improve it. You change your procedures. You're using what is working, and you apply that across the board, so that each person, if they follow that step, they keep following the same steps, they're going to get the same results. All right, we're just going to options moving forward on getting certified. Here within CASA, we've broken it down into three steps, or three phases as we refer to it. Here within phase one, we're going to be preparing your business for change. This is so crucial when you're looking at implementing a change within your business. If you're looking at implementing the standard, if you're not certified, or if you're looking at bringing the standards, you're rolling over from the 2008 standard, you're rolling up to the 2015 standard. One of the biggest things you need to be looking at is bringing in and preparing your business for change. The ability to have as much input from your team as possible will help that process roll out. It's like if you fail to plan, you plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You need to bring your team on. You need to get them mentally ready and get them to take ownership of the changes as much as you can bring them on. You need to identify where your business currently stands. Now, that's with regards to your documentation. That's within the culture of your business. That's your paperwork, what paperwork you are using. A lot of the time, the paperwork that you're using, there's a fair portion of it which will integrate seamlessly within the ISO standards. So it's when you're preparing for it all to make the change, to get certification or to roll over, you need to bring all your current documentation out and start looking at it, being familiar with it. We then need to be looking at developing a plan from where you are now with this information to what you're wanting to achieve with the business with ISO. If you're looking to really redevelop your system or redevelop your standard develop your business, you've got a different emphasis on what you're looking for if you're just wanting it to tick a box. Unfortunately, there is a lot of people who do believe that just getting the standard is it's a way of just ticking a box for a tender. I did have a client who they were a little bit on both sides of the fence here. They were wanting it for tenders, but they also had a need for having this for the tenders, but they also wanted to optimize their business. They'd been looking at it, but they looked at the ISO as a way to develop their business. This company had a very clear knowledge on the different levels within their business. They had very clear the operating costs down to the per square meter, their profit margins, everything right down to the square meter of the work that they were doing. As we began to work with the company, they had a very small profit margin on each per meter that they were actually able to make over the year. As we began to work through the quality standard between the system and identified exactly the clear results that they were looking for, that profit margin that they were able to get per meter was able to double. They identified a lot of the silos that had developed within the business. They were able to eradicate them. They were able to identify the personnel who weren't working at their optimum, or their processes and procedures that they were following weren't compliant with what the business was wanting and what the end goal vision for what they wanted to achieve was happening. So I think this was a very successful result when they were able to identify and take on board the getting the clarity on why they wanted to have ISO certification, and then truly taking on board the strategies and the systems that they say within the ISO to implement. And by the time we were able to roll over the names of how they were using their documentation in alignment with the standard, on top of really having the reviews within the business, setting the KPIs, giving clear role descriptions, seeking more clarity within the business and putting emphasis back onto particular team members within the team, they were able to really increase their margin within business, or within what they were making on per square meter. So it's really critical that you need to document where you are now and what it is that you want to achieve by getting the ISO. One of the great things about the new ISO is that they've actually cut back on the need for having documentation, like lots of written procedures. Having said that, they still say you need to have some sort of way of communicating how you want the particular processes to be shown within business. So within our implementation phase that we call here, which is our phase 2, we look at other ways of being able to communicate your procedures and so forth to business, or to your employees, sorry, to your team members. I understand that the new ways, like, so this can be through audio, through video. We've still got documentation. You have other means for which you can communicate how you want particular actions to be done in your business. All of these means are acceptable within the ISO standard. It has been there in the past, but it's not as a focus point now. So with our implementation here into the phase 2 of implementing, we look at other ways of being able to implement and communicate your ways of showing your procedures of how you want particular action or particular items actioned. We do that there within our phase 2. And then within our phase 3 of getting certified or implementing the ISO standard, we look at the actual auditing itself. So this is the review process, where how things are getting done, meeting the actual certification of the standard. And then the next phase is then it's the ongoing management of the system, the ongoing surveillance audits, getting through the surveillance audits. This is an ongoing process. So once you break it down into 3-step process, it's quite easy to get yourself through the ISO standard. How do we get certified? We can look at going it alone. As already mentioned, the ticking of the box option, which is there are plenty of people who, if you want to do it, that's up to you guys, where you can pay a small fee and receive a bunch of documents. You'll get certified, and then do a couple of little things, fill out a few forms, and then as the surveillance audits come through, you just sort of scrape through. Your other option on getting certified is actually using professional consultants who hold your hand while you're going through this process. They work with you in the development of the documents, in the development of your culture, because you'll be changing your culture. Even if you've got a really good culture, you still will hit walls as you're dealing, or as you're implementing the ISO standard into your business. You will hit barriers where it's great to have someone to talk to who's experienced this sort of thing. Through the use of professional consultants, they get to see different strategies that have worked in different industries as well. And quite often you'll be able to ask them for advice and get recommendations on different ways to manage different situations that come up within your business. And potentially that can give you new opportunities for where you can take your business. So I just quickly want to touch on here, coming back to what CAS is all about. CAS is actually a patented online cloud management solution for your business. So once in the process of getting certified, our CAS solution software cloud-based system is a document storage solution that captures your corrective actions that you identify in the field. It's a storage place for your forms, your plans, meetings, asset tracking, so assets or your registers for keeping track of your items, so whether or not that's electrical and so forth, BA equipment to make sure that they remain within compliance. It's an automated system that keeps track of everything up in the cloud, gives you notifications when particular items are due. It tracks all your online training. It can hold your procedures and track when someone's done the training. You can put questions, a Q&A section there. They get their own unique user ID to log in, so you can keep a track that they're trained and certified, or they've done the particular procedures, or they've done their inductions, or again, you can track people's licenses in there. So if someone's needing a forklift ticket, you can track their forklift when it's due for renewal and so forth, and give them a reminder, because especially if it's part of their job, if they're managing a store or so forth, then you'll need them to keep that license if that's part of their PD. So that's where CASA comes in onto its own. It's got an app that's available on the ground, has the documents. It can, if you've saved your stuff whilst you're online, so if you're going into remote areas, you can download a project, go to your project and say, yep, I want to have all of my plans, my swims, my compliance checklists, flowcharts, whatever. You can download all the stuff that's in your project file and use that offline. Within it, you can also set multiple levels of access as well. So if you're looking for a solution that, the managers obviously will have more access than a team member or a supervisor, you can change the different levels of permissions. There's an unlimited amount of projects that you can store within the system, as well as templates. You can have your templates that are available. Either use the ones that are within the system that align already with our QMS system, or you can develop your own and keep them in the project library, just your own personal project folder, or you can upload it into the public share forum. So I hope we've answered some of your questions and given you some insight here into the this 2015 ISO 9001 quality management system quick overview webinar. If you have got some questions, I know there's some of you online that are posting quite a few here for me. I will be answering them for you straight after this webinar. We will be just ending it here for those of you on the pre-recorded. So if you want to jump on the link that's there below you, it's got the link to where you'll be able to schedule in a free 25-minute session, strategy session, where you'll be able to have some of your questions answered, how you can use this information in your business. And yeah, if you've got any, for those of you online, hang around, we'll answer your question shortly. And yeah, I hope to speak to you guys soon. Take care, bye. Okay, so